You're listening to the podcast of Iris Josephina. If you're passionate about exploring the menstrual cycle, cyclical living, body wisdom, personal growth, spirituality, and running a business in alignment with your natural cycles, you're in the right place. I'm Iris. I'm an entrepreneur, functional hormone specialist, trainer, and coach, and I'm on a mission to share insights, fun facts, and inspiration I discover along the way as I run my business and walk my own path on Earth. Here, you'll hear my personal stories, guest interviews, and vulnerable shares from clients and students. Most people know me from Instagram, where you can find me under @CycleSeeds, or they have been a coaching client or student in one of my courses. I'm so grateful you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. So today I'm here with Eirini, who is the founder of Inne. And I'm so excited that you're here. I think what you're doing is cutting edge and very much what we need in women's and cyclical health. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Iris, what a beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
For those who don't know you yet, can you share a little bit about who you are? What is your background? And what is like the education and the inspiration that you had for the creation of Inne?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So you and your audience is finding me at my early 40s. And I live in Berlin, and I'm mainly a mom and a founder of Inne these days in this chapter of life. But my first chapter started in Athens. So I'm Greek. I was born in this beautiful sunny city, but I left quite early and studied in London. That's where I did my first studies. Funnily enough, my background or my first degrees were in languages and performance, interestingly. And then somehow, right after my bachelor's, I found a job in the medical field. So I worked for a healthcare organization that was basically doing repatriations and evacuations from, like, let's say, war zones or crisis zones, etc.
Wow.
Mainly because I spoke several languages, and I ended up staying more than a decade.
Wow.
And in those 10 years, I worked in London with them, in Paris, and then in Southeast Asia. And it was one of the most profound experiences that's before Inne, because it was really around connecting you with the human, helping them navigate the healthcare system, helping them and their families go out of really crisis situations. And in that process, I studied also business. I did an MBA. I got a lot of training on quality assurance and project management and all of that. And in my early 30s, I moved back from Southeast Asia and found myself in a chapter start. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but where I was firstly single, or better divorced, off the pill, because I thought I'm going to take a break. I don't need contraception right now. And then boom, I was like, what is happening? Is it because I'm divorced that I'm experiencing this whole this whole happiness? It shouldn't be happening. My ex is a wonderful human, by the way. But what was actually happening is I was getting back into my natural rhythm. And I was ovulating. And I was having cervical fluids, which I never had before. And I could feel sexuality in ways that I didn't before. Like, I remember sitting there and being like, hold on, why am I having these weird thoughts? Like, and I think there was a moment of realization that, and also a little bit of self-shame, because I had considered myself, well-traveled, well-studied, very international, very in tune with the world and societies, right? Especially after having been in Southeast Asia for a few years. And I knew nothing about my own body, zero. And I was 32. And I think that's kind of how the inner, or my inner journey started, which was, trying to understand, okay, how do I make sense of this? Yeah, and the options, this was 2015 or 14 actually, and the options back then were hardly digital, right? So there was very few period trackers. I think the first one I used back then was called Kindara. I don't know if
Ah,
you
yes,
remember.
I remember that. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember when it was actually coming out.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what Kindara is, it's like a natural fertility management app where you can record all your data, your temperature, your fluids, your cervical opening and position and texture. Yeah, it was big under in the community. Yeah.
100%. And it
Yeah.
was a wonderful couple that started it. And I remember they were sharing that they had met in Burning Man. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm part of a revolution happening. I loved it. And then, I, of course, bought all the books, right? And started this journey of understanding what was happening in my body. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like for me, at least, the way it manifested was not so internal. Like I had a need to communicate this. So I was like this little child every day learning something. So I was like telling all my girlfriends or sisters or community, and they were like, "You're nuts.
Yes.
This does not exist. Like, what are you talking about?" I don't even know. Because, of course, I was at a generation that had always been under hormonal contraception.
Yeah.
But it was a very external push. It's really interesting. I was learning about my body, but it was like I had the need to communicate.
I recognize that. I was similar. I think we discovered all of this around the same time. I was a bit younger. I was in my early 20s, like
Oh, lucky
2012,
you.
2013. I was 23 back then. And yeah, it was like I was learning so much and feeling so much understanding. And there is this natural need, like, oh, I discovered this good thing. I need to share this with my people. But then I also received a lot of like pushback, and I even also shared with family, and they were like, "You're crazy. That's irresponsible. What are you doing? Do you want to get pregnant now? Like you're in the prime
This
of
is
your
how
life."
my uncle conceived their child, right? Like these are the kinds of things. See, for me, I did not necessarily, so I didn't have a partner for the beginning of it. And then I met my next partner, who is also the father of my child. And I was it was very clear to me, I wanted to try this inner relationship, the fertility awareness method, FAM,
Yeah.
at the time. And so he was very receptive, or I didn't give him a choice. I think it's either or. I took him on this journey. But there was also this, and we had a long distance relationship, right? So it was not, I didn't feel pressured that, oh, I have to contracept in whatever way. But I had this space to do it for me.
Yeah.
And I think that was an important step for me. And again, I'm a little bit older than you, or quite a bit older. And so I went through this, like, marking your calendar when your period comes in writing, like your paper diary type of
Yeah.
thing, in a way that no one would understand, right? So like I had to come up with codes of symbols just in case, my mom opened my diary, or like some friends, or at school, like I didn't want it to be visual or understood. So I went from that to my 20s living in London, where also contraception and fertility clinics are very free, and to go through the pill, the pads, the injection, like all the sort of hormonal contraceptives, because it was just like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And then find myself in my early 30s being like very little lady. And what's available is really great, because it's decades of research and women trying to actually have a voice and talk about this in a lot of strong communities. And it's really years behind any kind of technology, right? Because I remember, working, and I was working remotely at the time, and I had an Apple computer, a Kindle for my books. Like I had all this technology that sort of like packaged my life and allowed me to be remote and float.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to use an old thermometer, or like a vaginal one, or like I remember buying this. I think maybe your remembers it, some of them or not, but it was this American company called Fairhaven or something. They had this big thermometer with 10 buttons on it.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. There was another one that was about measuring electrolyte changes, and you had to put a probe in your vagina and a probe in your mouth. I don't know. It was like, yeah, I
Very
tried it all.
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I heard you say, or I saw on your website, that like the traditional natural fertility methods eventually were maybe like too hard for people to use. reliably? And was that like the motivation for you to create a product that is more user friendly, basically?
Yeah, I cannot say that I had complete, I was not dogmatic that this, the current methods were not going to work for everyone, the current FAM methods at the time current. But I had two really energies that were pushing me forward. The first one is no matter what, this has to scale. Like it has to be available to more people.
Yeah.
I had
What
just started.
Yeah.
Let me think, where was the sentence that, so what I was sharing was that it wasn't that I was dogmatic, that the farm methods will not work for everyone, but I did have two very concrete sort of pushes that were pulling me forward. One was, how do we put this in front of more people's eyes? Yeah. And I felt and still feel that technology and science and the medical expertise have the capacity to bring that in the center of a conversation.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there wasn't any innovation for so many years on it, apart from, starting to digitize it. And the other pull was a curiosity of why do we even measure temperature? And why do we even measure our cervical fluids? Like, what's the biological thing that actually happens?
Yeah.
And there I became obsessed with hormones. I'm still obsessed with hormones. I think it's the one thing that drives our whole lives. And I'm not just talking about fertility hormones, but I'm talking also about stress hormones, right? And I'm entering perimenopause right now, or I'm in it. And I see how, like the data that I've collected in the last few years is super useful to me right now. So I was like, no, we have to replace. There is no excuse to only rely on temperature just because we don't have technology good enough to measure what really matters, which is hormones. Yeah. And of course, my naivety in the beginning was that I was going to measure all kinds of hormones all at the same time. And then, of course, entrepreneurship helped me shape ideas of like, there has to be core innovation, but step by step. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you then share what technology Inne uses to gain insight into our cycles and what that means?
Sure. So we use saliva and we have a daily test. It's based on what is called lateral flow technology. So sort of like paper diagnostics. And it's for those that are geeky in the audience, it's antibody based. So basically we collect a little bit of your saliva and we measure right now progesterone in it, which is basically what temperature mimics, right?
Yeah.
So temperature rises because your progesterone rises. But instead of looking at temperature, we look at the actual progesterone hormone. And then we have a little device where you put your test in and then the device reads it for you and the data comes into your phone. So we've really tried to build an experience that will be, I hate this example, but that will be as easy as taking a pill or as taking a temperature measurement, but give you a data point that is more reliable because it doesn't get affected by sleep or lack of or sickness, and actually something that tells you much more about your body. So I'm checking around to see if I have any product here. I'm sure your people have seen it. But these are the strips. I can open a box for you or a pouch. And this is our second gen. So this is what it looks like. It's really, really small. And you deposit a bit of saliva here and then you put it in the mini lab. And then this takes a measurement and sends it over to your phone.
Amazing. And you would, because progesterone is produced mostly the second part of the cycle. So would you start measuring this around ovulation or do you measure throughout the menstrual cycle?
You measure it throughout. And it's actually produced throughout the cycle. It just grows during ovulation.
Yeah.
So it really is the same for those that know temperature. It's the same principle, just that it has the benefits of you get your hormonal levels instead of temperature. But then you also have flexibility of when you measure. So for example, temperature, unless you use like an Oura ring integration, you have to, or an overnight, you have to take it in the morning, right? And with progesterone or inne, you have 4 hours in a day, from 6 till 2, depending on when you set them, that you can take the measurement. But basically, we measure from sort of your follicular and phase. We build a baseline. And then we look at the rise. We confirm your ovulation if it does happen. And then we also continue in your luteal phase, or at least you have the capacity for it, to try and understand whether there's any luteal phase deficiencies in there. So we look at your full on a daily routine, it's a daily test, but also we look at your full cycle at the end. Yeah.
So cool. I love
Yeah.
I love how technology can be used for good things like this.
Yeah,
And
well, if someone concentrates on it, but yeah.
yeah. And how do you see that Inna really balances this technology part without losing the more intuitive part of us understanding our cycles, but also gaining true understanding without creating a disconnect by relying on a device, really?
Yeah, the INE is not built to be your doctor. As in,
Mhm.
there is not that, and we have been very intentional about it. So Ine's persona was always this cool hippie auntie, where and we always said, we want Ine to be the auntie you go to with questions that you wouldn't go to your mother.
Mhm.
And so it's a conversation. It's a conversation with your own body. It's not like this is what you do, that's how you do it. And we've built that in different touch points. So from when you unpack the product or how you experience it daily, it's meant to give you delight of how you interact, how it looks. It's very, it doesn't have sharp edges. It's very soft, the texture, right? But also not become like a stressful thing you have to do every day.
Mhm.
Because we also serve women who want to get pregnant, right? Not just avoid pregnancy. So there, the intentionality and the stress is very different. So we've designed it to sort of like be easy and also something you can rely on. So very scientifically rigorous, but also not take over your life. And then when you move into the digital part of it, the experience is very calm. We have messaging and we have some insights there for you. So we measure your progesterone, we tell you your fertility, but then we also prompt you to track other things. And I think that's where the conversation starts.
Mm.
And I had recently, so I started this month connecting with our community. So I did like 15-minute calls with customers. And I had a lot of these women who told me like, yeah, I'm using it for contraception, but actually I'm using it for me to understand my body. And I think that's the win, right? And when I ask, how do you experience that? They say, oh, like there were all these things I suspected. And, I had this woman who told me I was tracking with other apps, but just being able to have the layer of hormonal data allowed me to see things differently. And that's where I'm like, okay, now I need to add more hormones in there and vitamins and other tests, right? The founder in me.
Yeah, beautiful. So, what I'm hearing is that a lot of people actually already, just by using it, move through like psychological and emotional shifts in how they relate to their body and what their body is telling them and what their body is doing. Are
I
there
think
any?
that's sorry to interrupt you, but I feel this is sort of something that you cannot really you cannot really explain well to people unless they try it. But it's
Yeah,
something that happens every time when you stop taking the pill. It's like, stopping a medication or stopping certain foods that give you bad symptoms. You just start experiencing your normal cycle. It's just that if you have never experienced it, don't know how it is. And what I often hear from inner women that were on the pill is, I was on the pill and then I was off the pill and had no cycle for 2 years.
mm,
Or,
yeah,
my cycles were 60 days and I don't know what was happening. So there's this anxiety of transitioning. But then they start getting into this circular or cyclical, I call it intelligence. And they're like, uh-huh.
yeah. I can imagine it also comes with a lot of peace, especially if
Depends
people.
on your cycle phase.
That's true. That's true. But also, like, if you've just, lived on autopilot on the pill, and then all of a sudden have like this beautiful data that comes from your body that you can give meaning to, and that tells you something about how you feel, how you relate, how you like what your interoceptive state is in your body. So, yeah, very
Definitely.
beautiful. Yeah. And for you, if you had to describe or dream up what true contraceptive autonomy looks like in today's world, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I feel that the world is a big place. So if I was to answer to the question, thinking of the world's complexity in mind, my first answer would be accessibility. I think accessibility is extremely important.
Yes.
But in my worldview, contraceptive accessibility needs to include methods that are not invasive, that are not causing side effects. And it does include also hormonal versions that might be the only option for some people. But so I have this accessibility being the biggest umbrella, and within this accessibility, really having more options that are designed by women for the female body or are thought for women rather
Yeah.
than some really hardcore painful options only. Yeah, that's what I would want. And I feel like we need to change the narrative of accessibility and of contraception in general. We need to change it towards away from women only.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel that there is something with hormones there. I don't know what the wording is yet, but I hate how we talk about contraception, getting pregnant, perimenopause. What is happening is you have a human walking through life and you have hormonal chapters. And I think that's what we need to name, because then contraception is only contraception because there's two humans meeting. It's not only one human. And we need to change this narrative of conversation, right? Like I hear younger women and they're being asked, like, are you on something, with a partner? And it's like, are you on something? Like I think this has to be a conversation. Or what do you know? What options do we have? So I hope there will be a change in the wording of contraception and what it means, away from the individual to more of a collective.
Yeah, I love that. And that also makes it more of a collective effort rather than, something that we need to manage on our own. And if we don't do it, we're deemed irresponsible.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It is like, I don't want to sound too spiritual or too boohoo, but I think nature has been pretty good at making it collective, right? Nature tells you when the environment is not good and you need to not ovulate, or if it's cold, or if you're too stressed, like you're not going to have a good pregnancy. So I think nature has been very, very wise.
Yeah.
It also can tell when there are two females very close to each other, syncing on their cycle. So there's a lot of collective design, but we have packaged it really well in very tight boxes in our modern society. And I think we need to just open up the boxes a bit more. Wow, did I just say that? So inspirational today.
That was good.
Yeah.
And so when you came on the market with this, is there any like resistance or challenges that you faced as like a tech-based contraceptive in like the more pharmaceutical dominated spaces that we in our society seem to like put more value on?
Yeah, sure. I think it's good to contextualize a bit. So we came on the market in 2020 as a fertility monitoring.
Okay.
But we were always going to be a contraceptive, but we needed to do a clinical trial, or we didn't need to. We decided that for us to really claim contraception, we needed to have a clinical trial. It was a company decision and a science-driven decision. So we came to the market as a fertility monitoring, and a lot of women used us to get pregnant and some others to understand their cycle. So really, there was always question marks there. Then we just became an official contraceptive in June this year. And now we are officially a contraceptive. I think in this time where we had a clinical trial and regulatory approval, natural cycles has been growing. So there's a lot of awareness around using technology for contraception.
Yeah.
And especially their partnership with URA. I feel like their offering has helped a lot the whole world be receptive to it. Although their offering is very much around simplifying the experience and making it simpler so it scales. It makes a lot of sense. And at the same time, I feel like there's some hardcore facts. So the use of the pill is dropping. 35% less in Germany only.
Wow.
So pharmaceuticals have been they have to face the facts. It's just what it is. So the recent experience from the last 6 months has actually been very different than the past. So we have had pill manufacturers or pharmaceuticals reach out for partnerships and distributions. And I know a lot of the big ones are looking to add non-hormonal options in their portfolio. I just hope the non-hormonal ones they add are not some kind of device that's going to be exactly like the IUD, but they are looking for options, seriously, because their revenue is dropping.
Yeah, we spoke about this before we actually started recording. In the Netherlands. They have this little valve that they can put, and they promote it as non-hormonal and how good it is, but then you're still 100% dependent on a doctor to put it inside of you and to open and close the valve. And
I think this, when you first told me, I was shocked, but when you move your finger of opening and closing, and we think this is in your tube, it's just giving me the shivers. Like, what is this? But maybe I need to see it more. Yeah.
no,
I don't think this is the hormone free we need,
Yeah, I agree with you, because the way that you are creating inne and the data that you're collecting with inne, people can really interpret it and assign a meaning to it. Like, okay, I'm here in my cycle and this is what's happening in my body. If you have a valve that is closed, you just know, my egg cannot ever reach my uterus and it will just die off in my tube. And that's the safety of the contraception. And then when you're ready, you can open the valve so the egg can go through and you can get pregnant. So it's still giving all the power away. And what I'm seeing with inne is that you put the power in the hands of the woman to collect the data, to see and witness the data and assign meaning to it. And I think that is where true power, fertility awareness power, contraceptive power lies. And it really embodies this sovereignty and autonomy that a lot of us in this field, and I think we are in the same community, that we are fighting for, and that we are wishing for every single person on this planet to have this reproductive autonomy and being able to make choices, but also to truly understand, what is my body trying to tell me? And what are the different snippets of data that can help me understand? And I think it's amazing what you're doing. And
thank you, my dear. I don't see any other way. I say this with all my love, right? Like, I feel, we are in a world where people want to make their own decisions, and so they should. In areas like, what jobs should I work for? What is my purpose in life? How do I want to impact my community? How do I want to eat? What vitamins do I take? What clothes do I wear? Do they cause trouble to the environment or not? This is all an autonomy growing and community world where hopefully we're going away from individualism to my own decisions. I am still aware how my own decisions affect the world, and I'm part of the world, right? So it's a network. I feel like we are, for the last decades, getting back into being a web of people. In that, you cannot take half of the world's population and just take their main driver of everyday life, which is hormonal health, away from them.
Yeah.
You just cannot. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And also, it might make sense for some. And I think that's why we need to have options, but not for all. So, like, it's a no-brainer for me. And that's why, with Francie, when we were first setting up the brand, we were very much about, inne comes from the German word innehalten, which is to pause. This is not to have a device that tells you this and this and that. This is to take a minute for yourself, pause and tune in. Have an inner look. So it's that conversation with the auntie where you can, ask the question, and then she gives you her experience and also the space to decide.
Yeah.
I just want this experience sharing to be validated, medically driven and cutting edge, and actually really just playful and happy as an experience.
I love that. And if you had any snippet of wisdom that you could share with the women listening, or maybe getting inspired to take charge of their fertility and their cycle and their health in general, what would it be? What would you tell them?
Wisdom. I feel that there is something around the right thing at the right time. And I feel that I assume some women that are still not, or that are considering perhaps stopping the pill or hormonal contraception and are not yet in this journey, but are thinking about it, perhaps are struggling for when is the right time. And I feel that I trust in our bodies and in the way life manifests, that the right time comes. And when it does, then I think we need to jump at it and just try out and tune in. And I feel that, it feels like a very deeply personal decision, anything around fertility. And yet it's very much a village decision, right? Look at the people that work with you, that come to your courses, that listen to your podcast. Like, we are a community because we all experience very similar things. So like, don't be scared to take a leap of faith and trust in yourself. So take a moment to pause.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And what is the best places where people can find you? Can you share that with us?
Yes, sure. So we have a website, just like everyone else, at inne.io. Social media is a great place for us. Instagram, that's where we post a lot of our content. We have a mixture of scientific, medical content, but also some fun stuff. We're starting community calls, but they're mainly for our users, just community spaces and newsletters. We actively have women, like customers, users, we call them inner women, in Germany and Austria, and we will be expanding in the rest of Europe right now. We do have people who just order the product and give a German address, but then we have this amazing customer who's been traveling around the world, so we deliver her strips in a boat somewhere in a harbor.
Wow.
So we have some really interesting people in the community. So I look forward to being more available in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Spain, which is close to my heart. But for now, we're very much German, Austrian based. And our material is always German and English. So
beautiful. I'm looking forward to this like massive spread. If there's anything I can help you with, please know I'm happy to do that. And
absolutely.
I just want to thank you for your passion and your dedication to this, because I'm sure it's not been an easy ride as an entrepreneur in this tech space. And I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing about this new cutting edge technology and sharing it with the world.
It's a pleasure, Iris. I must just say, I love your name. I love it. It's also, I will tell you privately another time, but it's something that I use a lot as a code for my life, because it's, the rainbow has all the colors. So beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you
for
so
your
much.
work.
Okay, this wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Want to know more about me? The best way to reach me is via @CycleSeeds on Instagram. And if you heard something today and you think, oh my God, wow, I learned something new, feel free to share the podcast on your social media and tag me. Or leave a review or rating. In this way, you help me reach more people like you. Thank you so much.